Today marks 50 days since Donald Trump took office once again, and everyone has an opinion on how he's done so far, but very few of us have actually seen what it takes to run the Oval Office, and that's what makes our next guest so qualified to give us his report card. So let's bring in Mark Meadows. He's former Trump White House Chief of Staff and senior partner at the Conservative Partnership Institute. So Mark, of course, we're always there at CPI whenever we do our shows in Washington, D.C., so thanks always for that hospitality. And let's just start there with Trump and day 50. He's done so much. This has been such an historic run. What grade would you give Donald Trump so far?
Listen, it's breathtaking. I give him an A plus, and I'm a hard grader, but an A plus really for the speed of which they've been able to address so many things. Can you imagine? Here we are, most of his cabinet, not only the first, the highest secretaries, but also the people underneath have already moved through the Senate, which is unheard of at this kind of speed. But really, when you start to look at the executive orders, the amount of effort that they're spending on not only looking at the waste, fraud, and abuse, but the billions of dollars that have been uncovered, much to the Democrat chagrin, because I just came from the Capitol an hour or two ago, and I can tell you many of the Democrat members of Congress are hoping that Elon Musk and President Trump stop their efforts because of what's getting exposed. So he gets an A plus. I think most of America, the people that are tuning in right now, even the most avid Trump supporter, I think are surprised. I'm a bit surprised at the speed, and again, it's breathtaking.
Mark, there's so much momentum right now. Momentum is the word that Russ Vought used today to describe support for the CR. I look at what's happening right now, though, and I think all this momentum is great. This is incredible. We're all for it. The premise of this show, the mandate, is about the real battle, right? The real battle is implementing the mandate, which is not even so much Republican versus Democrat, but Republican, MAGA Republican versus the administrative state. So given your experience, what do you think are the big obstacles that are going to start to rear their ugly heads as the Trump administration moves forward and fights?
Well, you've gotten right to the heart of the matter, and it's probably my biggest concern, not only in the next 50 days, but in the next 90 to 120 days, because there's two types of people that love to spend money in Washington, D.C., Democrats and Republicans. and the swamp is already fighting back. Even some, we're seeing some reports of some friction within the cabinet. Generally, that's overplayed. New York Times and others reporting on that. That's normally one bit of little color given at a water cooler that's extrapolated. But here's the big concern that I do have is as they start to find these battles, and this week, as soon as possibly tomorrow, the House is going to vote on a continuing resolution, which most conservatives in the past have not supported. What are they doing? They're willing to support that to give the president a tactical play, but I'm afraid of what they may run into in the Senate. The Senate, they take more naps than they do votes, and so it's critically important that we make sure that that momentum that Russ Vought was talking about and that both of you have covered very well continues to go, because the honeymoon phase is not over. But it has the potential of being over if the American people don't continue to applaud. And I'm not talking about a little golf clap. I'm talking about applauding in a real terms, because you can never imagine the resistance that's here in Washington, D.C. when Donald Trump and his team showed up in the Oval Office.
Well, Mark, let's go into that honeymoon phase a little bit more. How long do you think that Republicans actually have to get some of these substantial cuts made?
Literally, it's what I would say is by the end of May. So it's a very short horizon. You could possibly extend that into July. But generally speaking, what happens in July is everybody's waiting to get out of town in August. And so what they do is they punt it until September. and they come back and they go, oh my gosh, it's like a florist being surprised by Valentine's Day. We don't have much time left. And they act surprised in September that they don't get it done. So I would say the end of May, first part of June. And so those that are tuned in right now, even if you've got a member of Congress that is very, very supportive of what's being done, get on the phone and call them and applaud them for keeping this momentum going. I can tell you, as a member of Congress, before I was White House Chief of Staff, I heard, 10 complaints for every one attaboy, and I can tell you that members of Congress are following that. So if you're tuned in right now, even if you've got a great conservative member of Congress, let them know how you feel. The other part of that is if you're represented by a Democrat, let them know that President Trump and Elon Musk continue to speak for you, not for the special interests here in Washington, D.C., because I can tell you the special interest lobbies, they want to buy a little bit of time. And time is not on our side. This is not a fine wine. It doesn't improve with time. So we've got to get it done.
So you recently met with the House Freedom Caucus about the CR. Tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts about what's going on with the budget.
Yeah, literally, the House Freedom Caucus, obviously Chairman Andy Harris is leading the way now. It's a group that I'm intimately familiar with, having helped start it back in 2014-15. And like I say, I don't know that I ever voted for a CR when I was a member of Congress, just primarily, I saw it as a kick the can down the road kind of measure. This is unique this year, and so I'm applauding those who are embracing that tactical move. The president obviously asked the Freedom Caucus to help out with that, but I'm embracing it for another reason. We've got, not only do we have the DOGE effort that is transformational. I've never seen anything like it. And I can tell you there's more to come in the grants and everything that actually need to be looked at from HHS and NIH and CDC and others. But you also have the budget reconciliation process that's coming. And so we're going to be able to work very quickly if the government is not shut down and funded properly. We'll be able to work very quickly to address some of those through some of the procedural tools that are in our toolbox that aren't normally there. They're there uniquely this time because we control the White House, the House, and the Senate. And so we've got to get it done. The president asked for that. And without exception, I believe, every member of the Freedom Caucus jumped in and was willing to help out with that, primarily because that's the play call that's been made right now.
Now, Donald Trump put his support behind the House bill, not the Senate bill. And one of the reasons is primarily because he wants his tax cuts to be permanent, and that was included over on the House side. Now, there's that little R word, that recession word has been floated around there in D.C. now. So how critical is it to make sure that the Trump tax cuts become permanent?
Yeah, listen, had it not been for a scoring problem back in 2017, they would have been permanent. What happens is that obviously the president wanted them permanent back then. The amount of money that those tax cuts scored at actually made them where they had to have an expiration date. But I can tell you this, that the interesting thing is even the scoring mechanism said that we were going to actually get less revenue from the Trump tax cuts. Well, surprise, surprise, we actually got more. The economy was actually very robust. It did exactly what President Trump and others in the administration promoted. I think the same will happen now. And yeah, they are talking about the R word, and obviously the stock market has not been kind over the last week. But I'm very optimistic that what you will see coming out of actually meetings that happened today and some meetings that will be happening over the next 48 hours, that it will spur economic growth and manufacturing growth here in the United States, much to the surprise of many, perhaps on Wall Street, but certainly to the surprise of my Democrat colleagues over in the House.
Now, I want our audience to know this. I mean, I was someone who was very skeptical and disillusioned with the Republican Party before Trump in the era. As I mean, you were fighting. I was doing a bunch of things in politics, but I thought, this is over. The Republican Party is really over. This is one big uniparty. People don't realize how bad it is, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to say, in the intervening years, as certainly I turned back to politics, CPI, the Conservative Partnership Institute, it's everyone associated. Those are all my friends. I mean, the Rachel Bovards, it's like everyone over there. I mean, even just associated, Clint Brown and, Chris Bedford over there. And I have to say to our audience, I mean, these are the people who really get it and who do the best work. And that's why we're proud to be associated with them and to have the studio there. But, Mark, I would love it if you could say something about really what CPI's trajectory has been over the last years, because it is remarkable how the sort of intellectual leadership, right, that I see coming from there, it stands apart. It really does.
Well, you're very kind, and obviously not only are you guys welcome here, but we consider this home for you, and so we want to be the place that is the safe space for conservatives. When Jim DeMint started CPI, he came to me. I was actually in Congress at the time. I said, Jim, there's no fringe benefit for being a conservative, for being a real conservative in Washington D.C. You get invited to less dinners. All the cool kids parties you don't get invited to. The only people that really seem to appreciate it are people like you and people that are tuned in right now on Main Street that honestly, they want their government back. And so you mentioned Rachel Bovard. What a true patriot and a well-spoken individual. But for us, it's not just the ideas. We want to come and embrace people that show courage. So sometimes those people, both in the House and the Senate, that show courage, they're all alone. Well, they've got a home here at CPI because if you show courage and you're supporting the America First agenda, we want to let you know that you're not alone. And so maybe we're not a think tank, but we certainly are an action tank, mm-hmm. and we want to make sure that we actually deliver on the promises, just like the president's delivering right now. Both of you are covering that. We can be not only supportive, but we have to make sure that when the going gets rough, all the errors that are coming in at the president and Elon Musk. I was on Capitol Hill earlier. There was a group up there protesting Elon Musk. I was the skunk at the party as I came through. They didn't necessarily. I told them that they were actually asking the wrong guy if they were wanting to get rid of Elon Musk. But I think to your point, a lot of Americans became very disillusioned with the Republican Party. And I, for one, believe that just because you have an R behind your name does not make you righteous. Until you start representing those forgotten men and women across the country, the millions of forgotten men and women, and that's what CPI does. Hopefully, we embrace them and do a good job of making sure that their voice is heard here on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, making conservatism cool again. It needed to happen. And we are so thankful, Mark, for you and everybody out there at CPI, for coming on the show today, but for everything that you guys do out there to support us when we're in Washington, D.C.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure, and I will say I look forward to coming back and giving you kind of behind the scenes. Like I say, the Ways and Means Committee have met all day today with actually initiatives to try to make those tax cuts permanent, but also to make sure there's no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security, all the things that the president promised. Hopefully, they're on board 100%. But it's great to have been with you both.
Mark, thanks so much. Matthew, when we look at it, they have been so wonderful to us every time we go out there, just going above and beyond, helping with anything that we could possibly need.
Yeah, and as you heard the man say it, I mean, they are a do tank. I mean, they tie the room together. They bring people together, and in an important way. And that's really important because there's a lot of groups that get people together, right? The question is, who are you getting together and why? And in this case, like you said, they look for bravery, they look for courage, and they're bringing the right people together. And I just want to praise any group, right, that stands out, that actually seems to get it in this day and age. So good on him.